every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about the Florida Gators, including news, analysis, opinions, and some of the biggest names in sports. You can find him on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Or you can watch him live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition. It is a Friday edition, thank goodness, of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We'll have JC, and then we'll do some Peachland Dental Pinks, and then we'll also have Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Georgia loses, Ole Miss wins, and we have our Final Four set. JC on the Titan and More hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. By the way, look what I'm wearing, JC. Can you see what I'm wearing?
Yes, Alarod. See, I knew you would get that from our friend down there.
Joe Lawson sent me this. It is a Grayson pullover. These ain't cheap, people.
Yeah, we both were lucky enough to be on his mailing list this holiday season, QB. That was great of him, and we love his support of this show. He's been on board, QB, since the very beginning.
Yes, he has. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. We got to do some Peachland Dental Picks, even though it's some bad games this weekend. Only a couple matter.
Yeah.
Georgia loses. I thought it was the game went exactly how I thought. I thought both teams would have trouble scoring. The game was decided within about 44 seconds on the game clock. Actually, less than that. You know, it was 6-3 with about 40 seconds left in the half. Notre Dame kicks the field goal, 6-3. Kicks off, very first play, left tackle gets beat, sack, fumble. Next play, RPO, touchdown.
Yeah.
13-3.
Yeah.
Georgia decides then, which they probably should have done before that, they decide then to run the clock out. Kickoff, boom. So 17 points in about 44 seconds, game over. But congratulations to Notre Dame. They're talented. I don't think any of the four teams, honestly, in my opinion, the two best teams left right now, I still think are Ohio State and Texas. I think because they're so explosive on offense. Notre Dame and Penn State don't scare me offensively. What are your thoughts on that, JC?
I mean, QB, I see that. Yeah, I can't disagree with you. As far as Notre Dame goes, I was a little surprised at how physical they were able to handle Georgia. I thought Georgia would win that battle, but Notre Dame forced 4 sacks. They forced 9 tackles for loss and 3 forced fumbles. And when Notre Dame forces other teams to turn the ball over, they simply win. They've done that 13 out of 14 games. And that's what surprised me the most. I don't think Stockton did anything wrong.
I thought he played really well.
Yeah, I think you couldn't have asked any more from the kid. I mean, my God, he must have been very jittery. And let's face it, that whole area it was jittery with what happened with the tragedy the night before and the terrorism. But I think that Notre Dame showed us some real – they surprised me with how physical they were able to take the game to Georgia. And I think we've got the 4 hottest teams or the 4 best teams playing right now. I mean, I like Penn State. I like their quarterback a little bit better than Notre Dame's, and I like their runners, their running attack with those 2 running backs. And I think physically you're going to see a bloodbath down in Miami, QB. And I really love the way, obviously, that Ohio State's playing. But I think the problem with that game is going to be that when you've got a team of college kids being told how great they are day in and day out now, like Ohio State is being told, it kind of sets you up for possible surprise. And so I don't think anybody should be taking Texas lightly with the athletes they have.
Right. I agree with that. Andy's question is, Shane, on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. How impactful do you think the long break was for the top 4 seeds all losing? Well, when you think about when we just had the 14 playoff, they always had about 20 to 25 days off. But obviously, sometimes, you hear people, we need to rest up, get healthy. I agree, but sometimes you want to just keep playing. Yeah. And I just think, all 4 teams they got by as lost, so it obviously hurt them.
I think we both agree that the seeding has to be adjusted for the following. But I do think this playoff is the best thing that may have happened to college football's postseason ever. And I do believe that the reseeding of teams or the way they seed teams 1 through 12 is going to be different going forward.
Dan says on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plum. Georgia continued to drop balls. They led the nation in drop pass. Look, here's the thing about Georgia. I don't follow Georgia closely, but I think Kirby's a hell of a coach.
Oh yeah.
And I think he probably had his best coaching job of his career this year because let's be honest, their skill guys, whether it's Carson Beck, Gunnar Stockton, I think they're both pretty decent core. I like Gunnar Stockton a lot. But his skill guys on the outside are not very good.
Yeah.
Not up to Georgia's caliber.
Right.
And I personally like the number 3 running back at Georgia as the best running back. And he just runs violent. And I don't know why they don't play him more. But regardless, they're out. Thank goodness. This is a great tweet here on the not a tweet, text on the Titan of our text line.
Yeah.
From Ryan.
Okay.
He says, Shane, the moment Gunnar Stockton was strip sacked right before half and Notre Dame got that easy TD, I thought to myself, how many times have Gator fans called Shane on a Monday morning bitching and complaining about us having 42 seconds and 2 timeouts and not being aggressive? Why didn't Napier try to get points right there? Blah, blah, blah. That's why it's called game changer. I've never been one to pull for Notre Dame, but what's not to like about Marcus Freeman and Riley Leonard? I'm just thrilled UGA and Kirby ain't getting another natty. I mean, that's true. You roll the dice there. They had trouble. Their left tackle had trouble all night, and that play there, and the kickoff return obviously cost them. So,
No doubt.
So anyway, did you watch the Rebels last night? You just knew Ole Miss was going to try to score as many times as they could.
Yeah, I think they had it in for Duke too, because I believe Duke had canceled a game with Mississippi in the prior season, or something happened where they were supposed to play Duke and Duke backed out, and Lane was going to have no issues with Duke's 3rd or 4th string guy back there. That was the easiest play.
He was their 2nd string quarterback.
Second, okay. That was to me, that was the easiest pick on the board in maybe all of the games, because Ole Miss, we make fun of them for losing some games they should have won. The Kentucky game. They have so many good players. And I think they would have maybe even given us a better performance in the football playoff out of the SEC than some of the teams that.
I still think they're the best team in the SEC. People think I'm crazy, but
I don't think you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy at all. I mean, I've been banging the drum for Ole Miss, Mississippi since the beginning of the year, just because of all the experience they have. And when you look at the last 4 teams we have, I saw a stat on Saturday or whatever they played. Ohio State has something like a whole lineup full of 4th-year and 5th-year guys playing, and I just think that gives you such an advantage over teams that are relatively younger. And Ohio State right now looks like a machine that can't be stopped. But again, once these kids are told that they're the best in the world, it kind of changes things. Now, I don't think Ryan Day is going to let that happen, and it blows my mind that these people in Ohio wanted Ryan Day out of town just a few weeks ago, and now they're talking extension. It's just so funny how football changes, dude, over 2 or 3 weeks. It's just crazy to me. But that's how fans are. I mean, fans are just a bunch of drunk idiots, and I've been in that seat. And I think it's been fun to see how these teams rebound and recover. And Ohio State, talent-wise, I think is pretty much unmatched.
Before the season, people said they had the best.
Yeah, they're unmatched. And
the highest paid roster.
Yeah, but QB, in spite of all that, they have won championship in 10 years because of a 3rd string or backup quarterback named Cardale Jones. You take away that team, they haven't won a championship in decades. So it's amazing to me, because every single year we talk about how great Ohio State looks on paper and how great they look coming off the bus, and they haven't won anything. Not yet, anyway. But they look really good right now, for sure. I think QB froze up on me. He is frozen. The freezing weather outside has gotten to the QB's internet. But anyway, as I was saying, when we wait for the QB to come back, Ohio State just looks different than anyone else out there on the field. And when you have a freshman, Jeremiah Smith, who's basically telling you before the game starts that he is going to score and beat you man on man, when he is a freshman telling these other players that he's never met how he's going to handle them, it gives you a real it's an eye-opener. So as we wait for the QB to reboot his rather low-cost entry-level internet. I'll just sit here and read some of these.
JC, are you surviving?
Oh, yeah, I was going to read some of these YouTubers while your entry-level internet system reboots there.
No, it's not entry level. It's I heard a transformer blow.
Oh, okay.
And now, you know what really pisses me off? Is
What?
now I got to go reset all the clocks in the house. That's just the biggest pain in the butt. You know, when you got to go around all the damn clocks and fix them. But yeah, so I had to call in instead of, I don't know if the internet's back up, but I don't know what's going on.
We're okay.
But anyway,
we're all right. We're all right. We're all right. I was just saying. I was just saying how Jeremiah Smith basically called his shots and dominated on his game with Oregon. Oregon was just doomed from the beginning with their seeding and everything else. QB, I think Oregon got screwed, kind of, frankly, playing that first game against the Buckeyes.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. Silverback concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to think back, you know, because I think I've had zero problems with the playoffs other than the reseeding, because I don't think I feel like Arizona State and Boise should not have gotten a bye.
Right.
I bet if you go back through it, we'd probably be sitting here with the same four teams. Don't you think?
I do think that, QB. I think they're the best four playing right now. Absolutely, dude.
All right. Conyer Ron says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, SEC's trending down in football, no longer elite, but SEC has become a basketball conference. I mean, maybe. Come on. This is the first time in like 18 years that nobody from the SEC or the Deep South, like Florida State or Clemson, has played, you know, been in the Final Four.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go out and say the SEC's trending down. I mean, you still got Texas. I mean, they're not considered. I mean, they're SEC, but I hear what you're saying. But the SEC will be fine. Trust me. In football, they ain't going anywhere.
No, it's amazing too how on Twitter everybody on earth is piling on, and the reason for that is because for 20 years they've had to watch the SEC dominate this sport, and so the one opportunity they get, all of the opportunists out there, you know, Danny Cannell, Kelly in Vegas, Joel Klatt. Every single so-called expert is all over the SEC for being lousy in the 1 year out of 20 that maybe they haven't had a great postseason, but there's still a chance to win a national championship, and it's sitting there in Austin, Texas. And don't discount what's coming in the Cotton Bowl when it's basically going to be a home game for the Longhorns, and I promise you there will be 50 to 60,000 Texas Longhorn fans in Dallas and maybe more that don't get into the game. It's not going to be as easy for Ohio State as it was at the Rose Bowl. This is a whole new animal, and Texas can match them up athletically. I just don't know if they're good enough offensively with the running game to beat the Buckeyes. We'll see on Friday next week.
Sean says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, I told you, Shane, Notre Dame's quarterback would give Georgia problems. I believe if I go back, what I said was Riley Leonard's not a great thrower, but he's a decent runner. And he's not a great thrower. He made good runs.
Yeah. He did that at Duke too. And it's good for Riley Leonard that against the team that he got hurt against, I think it was Duke and Notre Dame where he got really hurt in the last ending of the game, literally. And now it's very ironic that he is leading that team that he played against that night for Duke. He is leading that team to the semifinal. It's a great story, really, I think, when you look at it deeply. Good for Notre Dame.
Yeah, for sure. John says Texas in the Final Four. Yeah, but we're talking about, like, people that still don't consider Texas as part of the SEC around the country.
Okay.
Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, talking about that, I mean, there's Joel Klatt and all those guys. I mean, obviously, they're talking about the SEC being down, but obviously there's an SEC school in the down 14 playoff.
That's right.
They're not really considering them
they're not used to
school at the moment.
Yeah. Not used to that fact, but it is a fact. And if they win it all, Greg Sankey's going to be standing right there on the podium with Steve Sarkisian. QB, what happened on that play against Arizona State on 4th and 13? It looked like the safety just got frozen. What was that play that they ran? It was so good that kept their season alive on that situation.
Well, they ran a double move by the wide receiver. It was a great call by Sark. I don't know if he knew that they were blitzing or they blitzed. For whatever reason, Arizona State came with an all-out blitz.
Yeah.
And the safety just bid on it, and he just lofted it right over his head. It was a tremendous play call by Sark, but I guarantee you Arizona State wishes they would have played zone now.
Yeah. I mean, 4th and 13 QB, that was a shocker to me. Arizona State's going to bitch and complain about the targeting rule. Arizona State interfered on offensive pass interference with Scatterboo on that go route. Arizona State killed Isaiah Bond. He got knocked out. Defenseless receiver, no call. I don't want to hear it from Arizona State. And all the people that were rooting for him, you always hear from people with a rooting interest as to whether or not a call is good or bad. And Arizona State covered. So just remember that. But Arizona State played their hearts out. You have to tip your cap to Dillingham, that kid Scatterboo, and I like their quarterback, Levitt. I think we may hear from Arizona State in the future. But Texas won the game. I'm glad for that. I think it makes the Cotton Bowl interesting now, because if Arizona State was playing Ohio State and Dallas next week, you're looking at another blowout. But I think Texas will keep it within reason. I do.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm not one who gets caught up on official calls, because they're going to make mistakes for both sides usually throughout the course of a game. A lot of people are talking about the play that Marcus Freeman ran the punt team off and his offense back on. Well, the officials missed that. Notre Dame flinched. Should have been a penalty on Notre Dame. You can go back and re-watch it. Also, it was interesting saying Kirby said that he was told by the SEC officials that you cannot substitute in that situation all 11 players, that they practiced that before. And that's what he was upset with the officials at the time, that he said it was not legal. Whether it's legal or not, I've never heard of that. But if you go back, the officials missed the call. The Notre Dame wide receiver flinched. Should have been a penalty on Notre Dame. That didn't really matter about the game. The game changed in that 40-second window that I talked about in the first half.
Well, and I think Georgia also with the sideline penalty, the goofy official running into the goofy kid.
Well, that's a rule.
That's
a rule. But yeah, if you're in that, there's that big white stripe, JC, on the sidelines. Yeah. Not the little normal width around the field, but it's probably about 3 to 4 yards wide.
Uh-huh.
Your get back coach is supposed to make everybody get back behind that big white stripe. Now, the kid wasn't going to score. Now, it just puts it 15 yards closer. I think Georgia probably still kicks a field goal. So it's not like he cost them any points. But the get back coach didn't do his job.
That's right.
I'm still trying to get online. I don't know why this won't work. But so anyway, Tony wants you to know, JC, it was Wake Forest who bailed on Ole Miss in 2025.
It wasn't Duke. Okay, I heard it might have been something with Duke. It could have been Wake. Okay, all right, that's fine. Either way, I think Duke was supposed to play Ole Miss and canceled the game in prior years. Look that up. But regardless, Mississippi had their way, played with their food last night. And again, they had a great great roster, but not a great year. And it's too bad. I think Jackson Dart's going to be a really good pro. And I give him a lot of credit for going out there and playing in that game in 20-degree weather, whatever it was in Jacksonville, empty stadium. If I was in Jacksonville, I would have sat my ass in the Jacksonville Tavern in the warm bar and watched it on TV, even if I had a ticket. But at any rate, it was a good performance. Thank God some SEC team showed up and won a game for us. And again, I think the opportunists are just beating us down because of how dominant the league has been in the last 20 years. Just look at the records, look at the championships, look at the teams playing. They're trying to make up the narrative that if we had a 12-team playoff for the last 20 years, the SEC teams wouldn't have won. I don't think there was any question at the end of all these championships who the best team in the country was, even with the BCS or the Final Four or whatever 14 playoff. It was clear that Alabama, when they won, was the best team. When Georgia won, they were the best team. And it was clear to me that the SEC has been the dominant football standard in the last 20 years. And people are just thrilled right now that they see a balancing act going on with the college football playoff, NIL, transfer portal, and everything else that's kind of evened the playing field. But we still see teams that get into this playoff and get blown out because they really have no business playing against some of these other teams. And there's always going to be somebody complaining about not making it. that's just the way it works in college football. You'll have to get over it and just accept what you have. And I think the college football playoff, with the favorites going 7-1 on the spread and straight up, is still one of the best things that's happened to college football.
Andrew, Rick says he's missed the last 10 minutes of the show without internet. Thanks, Cox. It wasn't Cox. It was a transformer, Rick. I don't have Cox. I have AT&T. So it wasn't, although Cox is ripping you off.
I tell you what, the QB, AT&T's been blowing up my phone to give me the internet. I said, okay, fine, come and get it. Then they say, well, JC, you froze your credit. I said, I froze my credit because your lousy company leaked my data and sent me a letter to do that. And then they tell me, well, we need a credit check. I said, why do you need a credit check? You've been getting paid for 20 years on this damn cell phone and everything else I use with AT&T. So AT&T is kind of in my doghouse right now. But they were giving me the internet you have, which would have been a lot better than this crap I've got right now. And I'm ready to deal, but I'm not going to unfreeze my credit. They caused me to freeze, by the way, when they want to give me a new service, which is sitting right there in the front yard, fiber and everything else. I'm ready to go, but I'm not unfreezing nothing, not for a while. Sorry.
All right, Andrew asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mello. Are the playoffs boring? Only like a quarter and 2 OTs of exciting football. 12 teams seems too much. I disagree, Andrew.
I don't know.
I've already given the stats on this program for the last 2 weeks. Even when there was 4 teams only playing, the semifinals were all blowouts, except for it's the stats don't lie. But if you like football, I want more than 12. I want 16. I want 24. The more, the better.
Okay. Now, isn't there an FCS game coming up between North Dakota?
Tomorrow, Monday night. You got the Bobcats of Montana State against the Bison.
If you like football, you'll want to watch that, folks. Those are good football teams. They play in Frisco every year, and North Dakota State is a staple in Frisco, Texas, year in and year out. I really would like to see Montana State, I guess, put it on them. But it's going to be a great game, and that's something for us to pick on Monday, QB. We'll do that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get to some Peachland Dental picks. Adam says on Facebook Live, Ole Miss, LSU, or the Gators would have been a better matchup for the playoffs. Look, guys, you can't just look at one game. All games are different, right? I mean, Ohio State has looked phenomenal the last 2 weeks. They could go get blown out, right?
Yeah.
And what's everybody going to say? They shouldn't be in the playoffs. Every game is different. Look at the NFL playoffs. There are blowouts every year. There are blowouts in Super Bowls. We talked about the national championship games for the last 15 years. Only 3 were decided by 7 points or less. The other ones were 15-plus margins of victory. So regardless. All right, Jay, so let's get to our Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Go visit them at peachlanddental.com. What you got on the docket?
Well, we just got NFL games. There are 2 on Saturday, tomorrow, and that would include Cincinnati, still alive, believe it or not, needing help to get in the playoffs, laying 2.5 to the Steelers. Steelers trying to somehow back into a division winner championship, but Baltimore is right now is the AFC East leader or North leader. Pittsburgh is catching 2.5 from Cincinnati. Bengals are playing good football, but it may be too little too late. I think I'm going to take Cincinnati just because I love the way Burrow is handling. And, you can make an argument that he should be the most valuable player in the league, but he won't get it. But you can make the argument for Joe Burrow.
Well, I like the Bengals. I know they have to have help, but the year that Joe Burrow is having is just incredible. Incredible.
He could be the MVP just as easy as anyone else, almost. Now these two games have playoff implications because the team that needs to win is the big favorite. But the point spread is what I'm going to get to you with. The Saints are catching 14 in Tampa, and it's not going to be enough. I'll take Tampa that one. And then the Chiefs are getting 11 with backups against Denver. Denver has to win, and I'm going to take Denver in that one. Which ones do you like? 11 and 14.
I'm gonna go with the Saints.
Okay.
Now, what was the point spread for the Chiefs game?
11 points, and Carson Wentz is your starter in Denver. Denver has to win, otherwise Cincinnati is back in it, as is
Oh,
Miami.
I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs because you know people got to remember
Yeah.
they're going to sit some players, but they ain't sitting all 22 starters because you don't
No.
have that many players on your roster.
That's right.
I think the Chiefs will still play good defense. The Broncos, I guess if you're a Bengals fan, you want the Broncos to lose, right?
No, you
that's
have
one
to.
of the
The Broncos have to lose for the Bengals. So do the Dolphins. The Dolphins have to lose as well.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take both the underdogs in that game.
Okay, gotcha. And then we've got the game that really matters the most, and this will determine the 1 seed in the NFC and the NFC North winner. And that would be the Minnesota Vikings at 14-2 at Detroit, catching 2.5. The Vikings, the Lions beat them last time, but they were a much healthier team. Detroit is looking to win that division and get the week off, which they desperately need because that is a tired football team. But boy, give them credit for playing hard in San Francisco. They still have those offensive weapons. Defensively, they're a little weak, but if they can outscore teams, it's the same result. You win or you lose. I like Detroit laying the 2.5 because at home, I just think there's going to be so much emotion and so much excitement for the Lions. Minnesota is a damn good team. It's hard to believe that a 14-win team could be a 5 seed in the playoffs, but that's how it works in the NFL. And so what do you think there, QB? Minnesota or Detroit?
Well, it's going to be a great game. Look, I love Detroit. I love Ben Johnson calling plays. I love Jared Goff. I'm concerned about their defense.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think the Vikings are a better team right now because of their defense. So I'm gonna say the Vikings pull the upset.
Okay.
And the damn Detroit Lions are going to have to be the 5 seed, which is crazy.
And they would.
So where will they go, JC? Like the Bucks?
They would be if the Bucks win and the Rams lose, the Bucks would be the 3 seed. So the loser of this Minnesota-Detroit game goes to either Tampa or Los Angeles. I think either one's tough for the 5 seed to travel to those 2 venues. Tampa Bay, if they beat New Orleans and the Rams lose to Seattle, because the Rams have already locked it up as well. So, Matt Stafford, it's going to be Stetson Bennett for the most part in that game, I think. So, the Rams could lose. And if the Rams lose, they drop to 4. And if Tampa wins, they move up to 3. So if they both win, however, Tampa would be the 4 seed and see the Lions or the Vikings, and LA would be the 3 seed. And that's how the NFC would work out. One other college game, QB, believe it or not, there's one more bowl or another bowl. There's actually a few more. But Minnesota is playing Virginia Tech. And Minnesota is a 9-point favorite. I have no idea who's playing and who's not playing. This is impossible to handicap. We're just guessing here. This is the Mayo Bowl, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, where they pour the mayo over the coach's head. I guess I'll take Minnesota. I have no idea what Virginia Tech's going to present or Minnesota, but I'll take the if usually you see a spread this big, there's a good reason for it. Probably a lot of kids missing on the other team, so I'll take the favorite.
All right, I'll take Virginia Tech just
who knows?
the hell of it.
And then, of course, next week we have Notre Dame, Penn State, the Irish early 1.5-point favorite, and then Ohio State on Friday night in the Cotton Bowl with Texas and Dallas, and they're a 6-point favorite against those Longhorns. There you have it.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk about all that next week. Have a good weekend, JC. Right. We'll see you on Monday.
You got it. Okay.
Let JC join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Oh, JC, are you still there?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Hang on. I want to do this day in sports for you real quick. Brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. I meant to do this earlier. JC, do you know what happened? It changed your life, JC, in 2007.
Yes, I do.
On this day in 2007, wow. JC's life changed.
It did. And so did every Alabama fan's life and graduate life. Nick got off the plane. Is that what happened, or did he sign? I mean, yeah, he was.
Miami Dolphins NFL head coach Nick Saban resigns and agrees to return to college football and take over the coaching job at Alabama.
Here's another quick story for you. Mal Moore, the athletic director at Alabama, asked Steve Spurrier to be the coach, and internally they decided for that not to happen. But one of the things Steve told the family was, "Hey, they're going to give me a free Mercedes. I'm going to get a Mercedes." So anyway, that could have happened too. But none of this happens. None of this happens if Rich Rodriguez doesn't go to Michigan. And that is the biggest thing that ever happened to Alabama. And then Nick Saban was brought in. That's a crazy story, but
All
yeah.
right. Well,
Yep.
y'all got your ass beat up by Michigan. Sorry, Michigan team. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. We're going to take a quick timeout. Come back and we'll talk to someone that has some sense. Edgar Thompson. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Our Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security System, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, JF Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Bishop's Pitmaster Barbecue, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Linderos Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Cogent Bank, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG&A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Unleash the Inferno.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Florida Cracker is the brand for original Floridians. Great food, southern hospitality in the center of the universe, Brooksville, Florida. FloridaCracker.com. Back to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. And I can see Edgar. He can't see me. Y'all can't see me. My internet's still jacked up, but I'm on the phone here. Edgar's got his nice new Christmas sweater on, it looks like.
I've had this for a while. It's warm though. It's freezing, man. I didn't wear my beanie for you today, so I wouldn't take any, but I'm going to put it on the minute I'm off here.
That's funny.
I did get a
Edgar,
Christmas
hope you had...
beanie. My niece gave me a new beanie. It's very nice.
Oh, good. You can always use beanies, especially if you like to play golf in the cold weather. You got to have one of those.
And have no hair.
For sure. Edgar, what'd you think about the last couple of playoff games?
Oh, I mean, it was one good game so far, like really good one. It's funny, I was listening to that game. So I didn't even watch it. I was listening to it because I was running errands. I got back late Tuesday from a visit home to Virginia to see family, which was great. Very nice visit. Got some golf in with my dad, my 85-year-old dad, and I got out a few times. So I listened to that one because I was running errands, so I missed the one worth watching. It apparently. I don't know, man. I mean, it's an interesting. I was looking this up, Shane, before we got on here, because it's like we're going back into the 60s to 80s kind of mode. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, Penn State. Those were like powerhouse is back then, right?
Yep.
No SEC in there. And, you know, Ohio State, I looked through it. I mean, they won 9 national titles in the 60s and 80s. You're talking about Notre Dame, Ohio State second, Notre Dame fourth with Texas, tied for fourth. I think it's 960 wins. And Penn State's 8th in all-time wins. So you have 4 of the top 8 all-time wins. And Notre Dame won 4 national titles in the 60s and 80s, and Penn State 2, Texas 2, and Ohio State 1 with Woody Hayes, who won a couple in the 50s. But so those were like traditional powers. So for older fans, it's probably kind of cool. For the SEC, it's surprising. You would think.
You got Texas.
Oh, I keep forgetting. I mean, all right, at Texas SEC, I forget. It's so new, but yes, you're right. So there is one SEC team. But still,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, but-
Stanky made a great move, right? Because he doesn't really, real SEC teams cut before this year aren't in there. So yes, my bad.
Yeah, Ken Brown says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Shane, just FYI, Jalen Milroe declared for the NFL. Yeah, I saw that. He has zero chance to play quarterback in the National Football League. I'm going on record saying that.
He is definitely, Anthony Richardson is a lot more efficient player than him.
Yeah, I've always kidded JC, and on this program, I call him TJ Yeldon, who can kind of throw a forward pass at times. Because TJ Yeldon was a really good running back at Alabama, who wore number 4, and that's who Milroe is, in my opinion. Amy's got a question for you, Edgar, here on Facebook Live. Brought to you by
I don't know who's in the SEC.
No, he said, did you attend the Under Armour All-American game? He says future Gator Nation Montgomery had a TD.
I saw he did. I was actually on the list and kind of came home with a little bit of a cold. And then I really had to dig in. I wrote a story that came out first thing this morning. I sat on with Todd Golden for like, 45 minutes almost recently and talked to him about how he put this team together. And I really invested my last couple of days writing on that. It's not going to be revelatory to anyone, but it talks about, it's a little long, but it might be, I think it's worth listeners taking a look at if they subscribe to the Sentinel, which, by the way, and I don't do this often, is $1 for a year right now. So $1. So if people want to read what I'm writing, you can do it for $1. Anyway, Todd Golden and I sat down and talked about just kind of how he went about putting this roster together. Because this is an incredibly good team, right? We're going to find out a lot. They go to Kentucky Saturday. They get Tennessee Tuesday. So you're getting number 10 and number 1. Tennessee and Florida outscoring opponents by nearly 24 a game, which is second to Maryland nationally. And they're just put their foot on everyone's throat. I mean, the North Carolina game had to come back in, but that showed some resilience. So I was doing that. But to the Under Armour point, I did keep an eye on it. I read what Kevin Brockway from the Gainesville Sun, who comes on here from time to time, wrote. And he talked about the receivers a bit. And yes, I saw Montgomery did score a touchdown and did an impressive backflip, a la Anthony Richardson, and caught a 2-point conversion. Vernell Brown III had 3 for 58, 3 catches, 58 yards. I guess Dallas Wilson ended up not playing, even though he was on the team. But, you know,
he opted out.
Yeah, he opted out. It's like, so you're getting some guys for DJ. And, you know, Shane, I know you're tired of this conversation, but I still need to push you on it. And I want to hear your latest. Getting an OC. I've been talking to people. Okay, I'm not writing this and really talking in depth on this here, everything I've heard and know, but there is a behind the scenes push to get an OC. That's all I'll say.
Look, I have no problem. I don't care if they hire 5 offensive coordinators. I don't think it's going to change the way we play football. And I think people
Why do you think that? I'm being serious. So here's the words.
No, because if you go back,
here, give me a sec. Give me a sec, please. The words I was told from people: too watered down, predictable, easy to prepare for. Okay. Okay. Doesn't make defenses think. Doesn't prepare. Teams don't have to prepare for the entire route tree. Not an attractive offense. This is stuff I'm hearing from people. I'm just wondering, those are just things. And so what are your answer? What do you say to that?
Well, I would agree with that, but I would say 90% of the teams in America, that's what they do. And my biggest thing is okay, if they do hire some, I hope it turns it around and everybody's happy and everybody's not calling the show and emailing and all that kind of stuff. It's going to happen. I don't care if they hired Steve Spurrier. It's going to happen. Okay. People are going to bitch and complain because they think you're supposed to score 60 points a game and score on every damn possession. It ain't going to happen. The other problem is I think people are underestimating this, And this is why when Peyton Manning moved from team to team or Aaron Rodgers moved from team to team, they ran what they knew. They ran their offense. DJ already knows what Billy's doing, and he's pretty comfortable in it. Now, I don't know how hard it is to learn their playbook. I don't know it. But do you want DJ and the receivers, the other skill guys that are coming back that were all very young, the Mizels, the Jaden Balls, all those guys, do you want them to learn a new system?
No, it's a fair point. However,
I just
you
don't
also
know.
have three guys coming in for the future, and you got a young quarterback who's clearly a quick learner. Don't you? I think it's obvious. You saw DJ in the 2 scrimmages. He looked a lot better as the season went on, didn't he? Even getting him in front of the media. First time, second time, better. Third time, he got better even doing that as he went. He seems to be a kid who really, a young man who really progresses quickly.
No, I agree with all of that. And, you know, people keep telling, they're chiming in here about we're not bringing all these receivers to run the same. That's fine. Look, people, y'all act like I want to freaking run the ball 42 times a game. I want us to throw it every damn down. But I'm being realistic here. And if they do hire an offensive coordinator, that's great. But I can promise you, Edgar, you're going to hear fans complain about whoever this offensive coordinator is during games because it's not going to work out perfectly during the course of a game. He's going to make bad calls. Chip Kelly is a damn good play caller. Ohio State fans have been ripping his butt the entire year until the last 2 weeks. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, the Michigan game, I think Dan Wetzel on the College Football Inquirer podcast said it was the most poorly coached game he's ever seen in his life. He doesn't even know what he's seen. I mean, he can't believe the turnaround they've made in the last couple of weeks. So they've figured out something. It helps when you got Jeremiah Smith. I tell you.
I agree.
But
just saying.
No, I'm not on you, dude. I'm not saying that you're.
I don't care. People
don't bring an offensive coordinator and let Billy do it, but you do kind of counter that the push from the public and even the media. And look, you know a lot more about what you're watching than I do. I mean, right?
I'm just going. Look, I don't know a whole lot about anything in the world, but I do know football. I've done it since I was 5 years old, and I played till I was 36, and then I still followed it. I know how it operates, right? I've sat in hours and hours of meetings. I've sat in coaches' meetings. It's not as easy as you think. I just want to know, who are they going to hire, right? That's going to excite people. I got
a name. I got a name. You want a name?
Yeah, I would love a name.
I'm not saying this is a guy that they're even considering, but here's a name that kind of came, and no one even mentioned this to me. I mean, this has come up between me and another media guy because this guy was being discussed at ACC meetings, apparently. Buster Faulkner, you know him?
Oh, yeah, from Georgia Tech. He's done a tremendous job there.
That was a guy they think is a rising star, and Kirby is actually, he was with Kirby 3 years, quality control quarterbacks, 2020 to 22. Interesting.
He's very good
kind of guy.
But he's done a great job at Georgia Tech. Now, there's no guarantee that's going to translate to being a great job at Florida. I'm playing devil's advocate here just because I just think people, look, I am more concerned, and I don't care how they played the last 5 or 6 games of the year. I'm still concerned with defense. I do not think we're very good defensively.
Sure. And they lost, and look what they lost. I'm not saying Pyron was a world beater, but he was productive. He was always around the football, brought tons of energy. TJ Searcy, loads of potential. Jakeem Jackson, to me, that was a loss. You might have had a 2-year starter there at cornerback. The kid was the highest rated defensive player in your 2023 class. Colby Collins was second. I don't know what happened there. I thought he was better on the edge or on the end than in the interior where he didn't really play a lot. So, and now you're going to lose Cam Jackson, who I think really showed something this year, and Des Watson, as much as I think at times you were just kind of like, why is he playing so much? I mean, he was a rotational guy. So losing a lot. And Shamar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anybody thinks that I like how we run offense, that's what Billy is. But look, I just don't think I could be 100% wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm reading something here.
Well, I just
hurt.
had talked to some people, and those words and phrases came up, plus the notion that maybe there's going to be some push behind the scenes to maybe force, because I don't think Billy's leaning that way. Maybe I might be totally wrong. This is why I don't write this stuff. And even to really say it on here, I mean, is it really different in a way? I mean, kind of. I mean, this stuff, to source it and do all that is a little more difficult, at least at the standard that I have to adhere to at the Orlando Sentinel. But yes, it sounds like there is that kind of behind the scenes. I mean, there's GM stuff going on behind the scenes. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that's hard to really report thoroughly, but you kind of know about or think you know about. So anyway.
Yeah, that's why I try to tell these people, why worry about it? You have zero control of what goes on. John says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, he heard Zach Alberverdi say there's a name out there that will make Gator Nation go nuts. Wouldn't say if it's an offense or defensive coach.
I heard that.
I don't know.
I heard it.
Well,
And a lot of people were speculating. I don't know that it was based on Zach. I heard speculation Brian Hartline would leave Ohio State.
Okay. I've heard Brian Hartline too, but let me just give my 2 cents on that.
Well, I think it's
the guy played wide receiver at Ohio State, right? And
I covered him in the NFL when he got drafted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He played in the NFL. He played at Ohio State. He's been their wide receiver coach for a long time. Why in the world would he possibly consider going anywhere else? That just makes no sense to me. Think about that.
Well, I said I think it's borderline absurd. I mean, maybe because he wants to call plays and realize Chip Kelly, but even someone floated a Chip Kelly rumor, but I don't think that had much credence. So I'm looking. Brian Hartline's from Canton, Ohio. He played in Plain Township, Ohio. He's an Ohio guy. He's having tremendous success there. And I mean, look at the receivers Ohio State's produced. There was some guy yesterday I saw who made the Pro Bowl, right? Is he at Detroit or somewhere? And I clicked on him. I'm like, oh, who's that? Went to Ohio State, 2019 guy. So, I mean, they've been producing receivers for years up there.
Yeah. They every year they got studs. I don't see how that's even possible. Now, I have a text here on the Titan MR text line from Will. He says, Shane, a couple of weeks ago, you said that Russ Callaway has called some of the games. That's what I was told. Have you heard that he called some of the games? I heard he called almost the entire bowl game.
I mean, I've heard that it's kind of gone back and forth. There's been like rumors he maybe called the opener, and then it was kind of went back to Billy and Sanford. There's just murmurings about stuff all the time. It's hard to truly put your name to it and be 100%. And we got to be. I mean, I got one story wrong in my career, like wrong. And it was a starting quarterback with the Dolphins. The agent said it flipped. The GM apparently pushed back after the story was out. They changed the court. It was, I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to go into a media room knowing I got something wrong. So we don't do that. But yes, Callaway, we've heard this. And he did well at Sanford, and he ran some air raid elements and things like that. I don't know. I mean, where does it leave him if they brought in a OC? I just don't know. I don't know that Billy's even leaning that way, but some people may be trying to nudge him that way is all I hear. So anyway, I didn't mean to suck up the whole show about something you talk about.
No, I love talking about this because look, people act like I don't want an offense coordinator. I've been an offense coordinator. I've been in meetings. Again, I think this This is from Jim says on the Titan of our text line. Hey, why don't we hire the Notre Dame offensive coordinator? They got a whopping 240 yards on the Dogs.
Yeah,
He's being sarcastic.
Anyway, what else did you want to hit on? I actually had some. I'll tell you, dude. Did you see? Here's one for you. What is the main thing DJ Lagway has to improve on in your mind? Being a quarterback, watching him, what's the number one thing
simple.
when the season starts kicking off that you want to see from DJ?
He's got to learn how to throw the ball against zone defense. If you go back, I don't have the stats and I'm not going to break it down, but I guarantee you 80% of his success was against man coverage because there's really not a whole lot of thinking or having to read when there's man coverage. But I'm pretty sure against zone, when you have to fit balls into tight windows, throw on time, know exactly where to go depending what kind of zone they're playing you, he struggled. I think he can improve on that for sure. But he may not have to, Edgar, because if we run the football, which that's what we do, teams are going to end up having to play us man coverage, and then we just run play action and throw deep posts and crossers, and that's what we've had success doing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. By the way, hey, here's a playoff question for you. Do you think the buys hurt teams? That's been a topic.
Yeah. I mean, obviously all of them lost. I just
not coincidence.
I don't think so. I think, they got momentum going. I know people's been on a long season. We got bumps and bruises. We need rest. These kids are freaking 18 to 22. They're fine. The way they train, the treatment they get. I just think the buys hurt them. I really do.
On that,
Kanye Ron on YouTube wants to know what some of Spurs' best zone busting plays. We had a million of them. So, Edgar, time goes by too fast when you're on, my friend.
It does. We're finished.
Yeah, time is up.
Oh, is it?
So we'll get you back on next week, and we won't ramble about offensive coordinators until we actually know if we're going to have one or not. Have a good weekend, my friend.
No, thank you, Shane. Hope we get some golf in 2025. Happy New Year.
We will. I promise you we will. Appreciate it, Edgar. That's Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Join us on the Titan of our hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover the ultimate Cuban culinary experience at Miapa Latin Cafe with 5 locations in Gainesville, Alachua. You're never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.